Hello, guys. Welcome to part 2 of engineers studying and later working in Germany. Today, we're going to be continuing what we ended at last time. We were talking about getting to Germany and starting with your master studies. We briefly mentioned the courses, the lectures. So we're going to talk more about that and then talk about what happens after that, the labs, the project, the master thesis, and how all of that goes. Before we start, I'm going to mention that we had last time with us Adil from Pakistan. Adil today is not going to be joining us. We have Omar joining us today. Omar is from Turkey. So we have someone representing the Turkish students coming to Germany, and they do have their special case, and sometimes with the scholarship, they have their own funding programs. So Omar is going to tell us a bit about that. As last time, we have Diego from Brazil, we have Georgi from Macedonia, and we have Osama from Pakistan. So welcome, guys, to this second part. I'm going to go straight to the point again, and I'm going to ask Omar. So Omar, you got to Dortmund. You, of course, applied to the masters we all applied for, or similar masters, which was manufacturing technology. You got to Dortmund. You found an apartment, which is going to be a subject of a complete episode about finding an apartment. And then you started attending the lectures, same to the lectures we were attending. That's where we met you. How was your perspective on the courses relative to the courses you take in Turkey in your bachelor?
In Turkey, I mean, we more or less similar system like USA. I mean, also gradings and the exams, you should not just give the key points. You should make the interpretation about the question, and you should bring your own ideas. In Germany, as you guys mentioned in the previous video, you have limited time and more questions. If you know, you can write the answer. If you don't know, you cannot make up a story. That was the difference. And in Germany, you should be also consistent and clear when you answer the questions. In Turkey, somehow you can pass by the question, maybe. Maybe you can let the person sleep. But in Germany, if you don't know the answer, you shouldn't answer. You should just say, I don't know.
Okay, so you should be very brief and very clear and straight to the point. If you get a question on the exam, the answer is not expected to be a long 5 pages of text, right? It's supposed to be a sentence or two with a very clear statement, right?
Yes.
So you had to kind of adjust the ways you used to study, the method you study when you got to Germany?
I have always the ability to adapt myself to environment. So at the beginning, we heard the stories, all exams were difficult. Then we encountered, I mean, we solved our first material engineering exam. then I said, okay, it is serious. I need to invest more time to prepare myself for the exams. So I scheduled, normally in Turkey, I was studying just 3 or 4 days before the exam. In Germany, I changed my schedule. I started to study 1 or 2 weeks before. So that was the adjustment for me. It is important to studying or learning with the colleagues like Diego and you before the exam. Just we were quizzing each other and learning interactively. It helped also a lot.
So you learned that you need to put much more effort to do well on the exam, and that studying in a team is much more helpful, right? In the setup.
Absolutely. And you should also find the right sources. For example, I collected all the lecture notes from our, how can I say, the people who were studied just before us. I mean,
the seniors, yeah.
The seniors, yes, the seniors. And also it helped.
Okay, so you should try to use all means possible to improve your performance as much as possible, right?
Yes. You should also push the pressure on the doctorate students. You should pass by their office and ask questions.
Okay.
If they see, okay, this guy is ambitious and have motivation, they also help to understand the concept and topic.
Okay. So Diego, when you were doing those courses and the exams and all of that, and you were almost finishing all the lectures you had to attend for the masters, did you feel that there was too many courses or too little courses for a master study?
Now the number of courses for me was about right. I mean, was more or less what I expected. However, I would like to have had more elective courses in English, which wasn't really an option for us. If you wanted to do like additional courses in German, of course, this would be a possibility. But still, I think it was about right. There's just like some topics that we had on the brochure from the previous years, specific courses on metal forming that I was interested in, but they were canceled because the professor was not there anymore, and this was a bit disappointing. But I think at the end was about right, the number of lectures. So
Yeah, so there were some availability issues sometimes, but
yeah,
from
yeah,
my own experience, there was, for example, a course that wasn't originally in the program, like additive
yeah.
manufacturing, but that was added later. So there was some courses coming in and some courses being canceled, but there's always some additional courses you could choose from, I would assume. But maybe we would like to have more options, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it would be nice, but I think it was also a period of a transition. They're still like adapting the program, and I think
Mm-hmm.
every year you have some changes in the university itself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have professors coming and leaving the university. So there's always like this change in the structure, which is a bit difficult. But would be nice to have more options.
Okay. So I know Georgi and Osama, they studied for the same master subject, right? Robotics and
Yeah.
automation, was it? So you also took a group of courses. Your master program is for 2 years, and then you finished the courses. I would assume they had similar challenges to what Omar described and needed some adjustments. Did you do something extra than what Omar mentioned to do good on your exams?
No, I would
Oh,
agree with Omar on that. From my part,
Okay.
uh, what he said is quite accurate also for me.
And for you also, Osama, was it difficult to find a group of students to study with and you do those like group exam kind of thing or group study?
Yeah, what I found difficult was in Pakistan we had a lot more assignments and quizzes and midterm exams and these kind of things, and you had a lot of material to practice on. So most of us we have mathematical problems. In Germany we didn't have that. We had tutorials, maybe 15 problems for the whole course, and then we didn't have a lot to go on.
Okay.
What to expect in the exam. So that was a challenge.
Okay. So you finished the courses and then in parallel or right after that, you started doing also some labs that are offered in your masters. So Georgi,
Yeah.
what kind of labs did you have and how helpful were those labs for your knowledge that you're at the end of the master? So how good are the labs from your perspective?
I think they were quite focused on our let's say field of study. So they were quite good. W- we had really interesting lab where we had this interesting setups, different kinds of setup, where we had quite interesting and yeah, challenging, let's say, tasks to do, and we were divided in groups of 4 to 6 people, and these were quite the big setups of different, let's say, chemical processes where we had to program the control loops and whatever. And interestingly, for let's say comparison to my bachelor's, you really had to prepare for those labs. So usually in bachelor's, you just like you go there and they present you the lab, and they say like what's your task, and you have to do it. But here in Germany, we had to prepare, like properly prepare with theory, with examples, and they wouldn't let us do the lab if we are not prepared good. And even I remember once there was this student that had no idea, like he didn't read at all, and they didn't allow him to do the lab. So they just said, okay, you're not going to do this one because you didn't prepare. You have no idea about the theory or
Mm-hmm.
the setup.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, yeah, and always we had the security or how it say the emergency drill before each lab. So as you know, the Germans, they take serious with this fire and
Yeah.
emergency setup before the lab, which was also, yeah, proper. I would
Well,
say.
it's necessary to understand sometimes the dangers if you're working with some chemicals or some processes.
Of course,
And
of
to
course.
know, to have this repeated training, so you eventually have it as a second nature. Like when some alarm goes on, you automatically know what to do, so you wouldn't panic and sit on the floor and know not what to do.
And this is very common. This is even in my workplace now. Each year we have this fire
Safety
drill.
training.
Yeah.
So that's something that's maybe we're not too familiar with in the previous labs, or at least in my case, in my bachelor. We just we were shown the machine and then we were told, just don't touch that button and do all you want to do, right?
Yeah, don't press the big red button.
Okay, so it's good that you have also some awareness about safety and how to conduct yourself around machines and around dangerous
Of
equipment.
course. And also the labs are quite serious. I was taken by surprise with that,
Okay.
It was a very serious task that you had to prepare.
So it is somehow simulating like a work environment where there is a challenging thing and you have to learn about it and you have to get it working at the end.
Yes.
And you do need to spend some time just to know about the subject before you touch anything, right?
Yeah, of course. As I said, like you have to prepare from home, have to do some tasks, some theory, and then when you come there at the lab, the assistant there, they would question, like each person of the group would get a question. That's how that student that they didn't allow, they knew that he didn't prepare. They asked him questions about the setup and even just the theory, not even the setup. So yeah, it's interestingly how seriously they take it. And they were like, if I remember correctly, we spent quite a lot of time with those setups, right, Osama? How long did it take one lab? Like 2-3 hours at least?
Yeah, it was almost half a day. So half a day of classes on this one.
And did you feel that the lab contributed a lot to your knowledge? Did it add too much or add significant amount of knowledge or experience to what you know?
It was definitely interesting. It was sort of like a mini industrial application inside a lab. So it was lab in the true sense of the word lab.
How many labs did you have to do?
I think it was 10 or 12, Georgie, something like that.
Meaning in one the lab that we had to take in the chemical lab, or
in general through the course?
There were examples, but we had on different courses different kinds of labs. So I remember for the we had lab on the computers quite a lot, quite even more than those let's say industrial setups.
Okay, so simulating and running some
simulators like on MATLAB, or let's say for PLC programming we had on Codices, if you remember, Osama. We had those were also big tasks. So on different languages we had to program the PLCs, and it was.
But with those labs, I will get to the machining and manufacturing guys. But before we move to that, did you feel like this is an industrial concept or just a technical concept?
I think you're challenging my memory now, to be honest.
I would call it more of a technical concept because
Would you?
The real industry, it's much more complicated. There are a lot more things involved when you're actually working in the industry. So I would say that it was more of a technical concept, as close as you can get inside a university setting.
Okay.
But Osama, didn't we do quite the examples? I think were quite industrial, right?
Yeah.
Especially because our automation it was based mostly on the chemical industry. So automation in chemical industry, and all our examples were connected somehow to chemical processes. Like it wasn't just a random like a mathematical model that you had to develop a controller for that one, or in
so
that
you had kind of a
language.
real world example.
Yeah, it was all reactive distillation columns, or
that's what I meant. So it is kind of like on the scale of a fabrication on a
for sure,
chemical process, not like chemical A reacting with chemical B, but a bit more of a real world example.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask the manufacturing guys. So I have on one side Diego and Omer, who are manufacturing, masters in manufacturing, and on the other side Georgi and Osama, who are the robotics automation guys. So from manufacturing, I'm going to ask Omer, how were the labs from your perspective, and did they feel like challenging, and did they feel a bit industrial or technical mostly?
Honestly, I had to remember, but we had to fulfill the 10 credits, and for 10 credits, I had to take 3 labs. One from the machining ISF, for the machining technology, the other ones from the Forming Technology Institute. The labs were we had a groups, 3 or 5 people, and first we get the theoretical knowledge, and then I don't know, maybe we had also some quiz, but I'm not sure. Then we had hands-on experience in shop floor. For example, for machining, we measured, we learned how to use the machine to measure the surface toughness. So we did some measurements, and then we wrote a report, technical report. The labs contributed to my academic writing skills a lot. Before my master, I mean, during bachelor, I didn't get this skill, but during my master, especially for lab works and the master thesis, I developed a lot in terms of academic writing. But okay, you have to invest more time and you have to think, but it is doable. I mean, I wasn't so frustrated, and I passed with a good grade, I think.
So in such labs, you had to do some measurements. If you weren't doing the production, you were doing some measurement on what was produced. So for example, the surface roughness, and did they kind of help you on to learn how to do the analysis and how to, you know, analyze what measurements you got and how to explain what did you learn and explain what does that mean, what to do with it?
I think there was no spoon feeding.
Okay.
They want to see, okay, you try and you fail and you try.
Okay.
And at the end, we did a final presentation, and there was a questions.
Okay.
They were testing if you know what you do. So I think overall I was, how can I say, I was okay. I mean,
okay.
I was satisfied during the lab works, I would say.
That's good. Diego, I saw you laughing there. So I'm going to ask you kind of the same question, but in a different way. You also took different labs, but can you describe briefly the best kind of thing you learned from those labs and the worst kind of thing that you experienced or you kind of didn't feel so positive about in the labs?
Let me see. Well, like for one of the labs, the one that I was working in the materials department, actually was very, let's say, as Omer said, was not like spoon feeding. So you have to do all the work on your own. You have to do the design of experiments, and then you have to plan everything. There is an idea and a concept of what you should achieve or what you're trying to achieve, but then everything you're doing on your own. And many times I was even working with Omer, and we're just like in the machine alone, trying to do our own thing and just going and trying and error.
So you felt lost at some moments. Did you get some guidance? Did you ask for some assistance, or you just really had to just figure it out on your own?
No, you can get some assistance,
okay.
of course, but it's very open. You know, you can work on your own. Okay. However, there was another lab that we did in the forming department that was really guided in a way. So everybody was like supervising all the time. You had the instructor supervising, and to a certain extent felt a bit more like a bachelor. So not really that challenging. It's more like a common experiment.
Material testing, right? Also.
Yeah, exactly. Material testing. There was like some different experiments that we did, like the Hajima and some new machines, but always supervised by the instructor or the technician.
So
and not much of like individual work.
Okay, so it could vary on the department, it could vary on the lab itself and who's supervising it, right?
Yeah,
it could be very well scripted, step by step, and it could be a bit loose, but it's more challenging, right?
And it depends on you as well. So depending on what you want or what's the topic that you're interested in, it's going to be a different experience and how much
You had a
effort and
list
work
of
you put
options
into
with the labs, right? You have many options.
it. Well, as far as you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as I remember, there's like no list of labs.
Okay.
You have some offers that they had, but you could also approach the PhD candidates, the professor, or other people in the department and ask, okay, do you have any project that I could work on? Can I use this as a lab?
That's true. So there was like this standardized, very short list of labs that are always being offered. And there's always, you can always ask a specific individual for a specific topic for a lab, and they could assign you like an individual lab, right? At least that was also an option for me, that I took one lab I was the only person doing that. And I designed the lab with the supervisor just to test a specific thing, was micro milling, for example. That wasn't a standard lab, but you could request it. So that was for me like an example. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
and was it the same for robotics? Do you have enough options, or like you had specific labs that you have to do?
As far as I remember, we didn't had a lot of choices. It's and the labs, I think they were within courses. It wasn't like a specific, if I remember correct, right, Osama?
I think Osama has lost connection. Maybe
Yeah,
he'll
probably.
reconnect. Okay, it seems
Yeah,
like his
so
speech is stuck.
yeah, it
Okay.
was within the courses. It wasn't. I think I don't quite remember. Maybe the big lab with the whole chemical setup. It was that was maybe a special as a course. Otherwise, the other ones were with the simulators, and it was just on the like during the courses. So it wasn't very selective. Let's say
I see.
there was not a lot of options to choose.
So the labs are supposed to be in total 10 credits. So you had to like diversify this lab for 2, this one for 3, the other for 4 credits, and then you collect 10 credits. At least that's from our case.
I don't know if it was like that for us. Sorry,
It's a
I
different
don't
setup in
remember.
your case. And but you also had to do a project that was counted for 10 credits. Okay.
I don't know how many credits, but we had a special project we had to do, and it was some kind of it was a whole semester project with pretty serious stuff. Let's say you have to like prepare and put your effort to it. It wasn't just like a like a homework or something.
Yeah, so it's same for us. We had the serious project. It is a bit more challenging to find compared to a lab. But usually it's very rare to see a list of projects where you can just select one. At least from my experience, what I had to do to find a project is you had to find someone who's doing some work, and you can ask him for a project, or you'll have to go to his page on the website and see if he's offering a specific project. Was that the same for you?
No, for us it was already like a planned, let's say, event from the group, so from the professor. So it was we were let's say the whole automation group, because afterwards first we started all automation and robotics, but then we specialized, some people in automation, some in robotics. And in automation we were like the big group, and then from the professor and his assistants, we were split up into groups, and then each group got like a big project, so which was the whole semester project, which we had to do some weekly presentations on our progress and then
so
at the end
been guided. It seems to be
yes,
well guided project.
It was guided from, and I think if I remember correct, also even the subjects were defined beforehand. So it wasn't like we had to go and find, like, let's say, the must thesis.
Yeah, I see. For your case, Omer, for example, how did you like find the project, and how's the setup to do a project in your case?
For project work or master thesis?
No, for the project work, the 10 credits.
I know the Diego. Do you know? Diego was a Hiwi, graduate student assistant at Material Institute.
So you pulled some strings?
Yeah, I say,
for assistance.
okay, Diego, I need 10 credits.
Okay.
And back in that time, he was working on thermal spraying process.
Yeah.
And his advisor or mentor was looking for someone who can work on a mini project. And I work on a thermal spraying process, and I conducted design of experiments and different process parameters, and we checked the surface quality.
So it wasn't too difficult to find, and it also was helpful. Did you learn something from it?
Yeah, it was very helpful because we were in the shop floor, we were alone, we were trying to discover, okay, how the machine is working. And then we were in a material inspection laboratory that I used as a microscope, electron beam microscope, I think they were SEM. I think so.
So you learned about the phase where you're producing those or doing the process of the coating, and then you also got directly involved with the measurement on the electron microscope. So you kind of practically learned two things in one project, right?
Yes. And most important, what the advisor looking, you should interpret your results. I mean, going there just working and then writing is not enough. I mean, you should interpret, you should understand the concept, and you should also bring your ideas for future works, because it is a project which is the first milestone for the next project, maybe.
There's always a sequence, right?
Yeah, there's a sequence. They are connected to projects, the master thesis. Therefore, it is not a project just for your credits, it is also a project for the advisor. Therefore, I mean, you should work on seriously, and you should interpret your results in academic level. Yeah. So, I learned that, I will say. I was satisfied.
Okay, so that was also a positive, good experience overall with the project. Was it the same for you, Diego? And was your project on the same topic?
No, it was not. Actually, it was one of your colleagues in the plastic or polymers institute.
So you're working on the coating thing, but you did a project in the polymer thing. So why did you choose to do that?
I just wanted to do like different things in different departments, get like the most knowledge out of the whole experience of the masters.
Diversify.
So, diversify. I was working in the materials, and then I did this project with the polymer, and then I did the thesis with warming. So I tried to do a bit of everything. And the project was in polymers. We're testing this short fiber reinforced polymer. There were many issues with this project along the way of producing the parts and testing the components. But pretty much we're doing like some fatigue testing of this produced components. And then I had to gather all the results and prepare the presentation and interpret the results, like Omer was explaining, so the advisor could also continue and do this work in his future projects. But in my case, it was a very, very long project. It took a very long time because maybe my advisor was not so much involved with this project, and then we didn't have much time to discuss about it, not enough time to do all the testing. Machine was not working, and a project that was supposed to last 3-4 months took like almost a year to complete.
So a project that involves a machine is in many cases delayed relative to a project that's just done on a PC, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if you can do anything with simulation, well done, and you're gonna finish on time.
Yeah.
And you don't depend on anyone to do your simulation, your work. But if you depend on a machine, it's gonna take forever because it's always gonna be busy, and if it's not busy, it's gonna be broken.
So a project with simulation or a digital project is fast. That is an advantage. There is a less risk of delay, I assume, unless the software crashes, unless there's no license for the software. But assume it's running quite well. What would be the disadvantage of just doing simulation and digital projects? From all of your perspective, what could be the disadvantage of just sticking with your laptop, just sitting on the laptop with everything?
Well, my perspective would be what the guys were talking about earlier, like to actually get the hands-on work to see how everything's working in the industry, get some actual experience instead of like sitting in the computer all day.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see the actual process, you can see how everything's working. You have like some actual hands-on experience. So
does that add to your confidence as an engineer when you're a bit more familiar with the tools and operating the tools?
Definitely. Like, you know, you feel more comfortable. You're not, let's say, afraid to try new things, to take the risk, let's say. So
if I can add, like until you get your hands on something, like even the most simple example which you can build and then solve something with that, even the most simple, until you do that, you can read as much as you want, you can solve as much as you want complex equations or models or whatever. It's still, you know, we're graphical creatures, or let's say visual creatures, until you see it and touch it. And at least I feel like that, but I think almost everybody is like that. And as I said, even with the most simple, you can see the concept, and then you can move forward with more complex stuff. That's what getting your hands dirty accomplishes you.
For us in electrical engineering, we don't have a lot of machinery and laboratories like you guys, but and at the master's level, it's something much more advanced. You do tend to do this kind of things at the bachelor's level, where you're playing with electronics and building prototypes. And
what about the robotics part?
Yeah, we're both not in robotics.
Okay.
But for me personally, I actually did not do these things in bachelor's because I like to sit on the computer all day, and I actually had problems later on because you're expected to be able to build small prototypes or to build something small, and then you have to learn.
I see. So I'm going to still ask the same question, but a bit twisted a bit. Something that people probably would not expect from engineers to experience. But if you're trying to solve a problem, you're trying to work on a project, and when you reach the point where you know it's working, okay, if whatever you designed is working, the calculation is working, do you get an adrenaline rush? Do you feel some pleasure out of things working out?
Oh yeah.
So this is not just about playing guitar and learning how to play that. There is some pleasure in what you do as an engineer sometimes, or it's supposed to be robotic?
Well, this is something that I let's say found out since I was let's say I was in high school, like teenager, when I felt the most joy when I was studying or preparing for maths or from physics, because you feel accomplishment when you solve a problem. You never get that from history or from whatever else course, which is from the other sciences or the other courses, because you just reproduce something, some knowledge you have to remember or write up. But when you do like a mathematical problem, even, let's say, but also something practical or engineering problem, you solve something, you get to the point, and then you accomplish something.
So at the core, engineering is problem solving, right? So if you're an engineer, you're supposed to be a good problem solver.
Yes,
and of course the master is supposed to challenge you maybe with some bigger problems, and at the same time introduce you to some advanced problems, or what we do, for example, would be manufacturing or automation. So you'd be introduced to more difficult problems, and you will be also taught how to deal with them and what methods to use to solve them, right?
Yeah. And also they some other, let's say, external stressors they would put you know, like time frame, or for you guys, let's say, working with a machine, and then you have to
reserve it and
wait for it or whatever. And it's not like you
this
can
is
work
part
on
of
the
the job, right?
Yeah, of course.
So when you're working in a company, you don't have 5 years to do your project, right? You have 2 months to do something. So it's good to kind of have that pressure, because when you're working in a serious company that have a serious project with a very clear plan, there's a time limit that you have to abide with and follow, and right. And sometimes it's even more pressure than the study time. It depends on.
I think Omer is not really agreeing.
Yeah,
Well, tell us, Omar, what do you think?
yeah. I mean, everything is good. For example, you have the kickoff meeting. Everything's well scheduled. I mean, all the softwares. Everybody has tasks. Everybody has
Yeah.
full motivation.
Yeah.
But during the time, you are walking with the people, and sometimes you turn your head, nobody's behind you because you know, either
So, yeah.
they're not motivated anymore, or there are some obstacles they don't want to deal with that. I mean, you put
Yeah.
everything on the PowerPoint and the slides, but on the
Yeah.
shop floor in manufacturing, there are a lot of things. Sometimes you should deal with the people. Sometimes
Yeah.
you should deal with the technical problems.
So there is a lot to talk about when we get to the job and the job,
Yeah.
environment. So I'm sure we're gonna have a full part or maybe two parts just talking about the career and how's work going with the companies each one of you is working at or his career situation. Let's get back to the university and finish with the last part of the university. So you do enjoy solving the problem, I assume, to some extent, if you chose to be an engineer. So how was it for you, Diego, how was it difficult to find a master thesis? And how was it, like, in a brief way, to go through that master thesis? Did it add much to your experience? And did it help you choose which career path to continue with, which companies to apply for? How did that influence later your choices also?
Actually, for me at the beginning, my goal was to do the thesis with the company because I didn't do an internship during the master's, but I wanted to have like this work experience with the company. So I was trying to look for that. I applied for many positions, and eventually didn't work out. But then I started looking within the university, in the institute. Okay, what can I do? Who is working in which project? And then I started approaching the PhD candidates, professors, and then eventually I got into this project that was a partnership with a company. And then this PhD candidate, he offered me the project, and eventually I also got hired to do the project with the company. So eventually worked out the way I wanted. So I worked in this project, working with the engineers from this company, and I would say that it helped a lot because after I finished this thesis, this opened the doors for my next job because I did the thesis in forming. So I was doing simulations and also experiments in the lab with the forming technology. And at the end, I got a position at Opel, also working with stamping.
So
and
the
forming.
choice of subject for a thesis has a very big effect on the first job you apply for to transition to industry, right?
Well,
so if your topic was forming, like, your best chances are applying for jobs connected to your master topic, right?
Well, I really cannot say much in general how it would be for other people. This was my experience. I've seen some other people that they had similar experiences. They worked in a specific topic, and then eventually they got a job in the company. And this, I think, used to happen a lot in the industry, that if you do a thesis with a company, eventually they hire you and you work in the same department, in the same area. This happens quite often, but it's not always like that. I also know people that they ended up working in a totally different area from what they were doing thesis.
So nothing is guaranteed, but you try your best, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. For you, Omer, I know that you have a special case, right, when it comes to finding a master thesis. Can you explain a bit what is the setup, at least for many students coming from Turkey to study in Germany?
Yes, I mean, in my case, I studied with the full scholarship from Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst, DAAD. There was a partnership between the Turkish-German University and TU Dortmund. And according to this partnership, you should study 3 semesters at Dortmund, and for the 4th semester, you should go back to Turkey and write your thesis with a company. So, but they don't find a company. I don't know, back in that time, it was difficult also for them to find a company for students. maybe they know they have now a connections. They can find the thesis for the students now. I don't know. But back in that time, I found the thesis and the company by myself.
That was 2016, right?
2016. Yeah, I started 2016 October. Before that, I was a intern with a company, automobile manufacturer in South Germany.
So you had a break between your studies and your master thesis?
I finished my studies in Dortmund. Then I did an internship in the automobile industry.
6 months?
5 months, 5.5 months.
And in parallel, you were looking for a master thesis?
Yes. Because I need to finish my study.
And it takes time to find a master thesis, right? So you should start searching early, not wait till you finish.
Yes. But I was lucky. The company has also location in Istanbul, Turkey. I sent the internal email for the team manager in Istanbul. And I said, okay, this is my situation. I had to write the thesis.
Okay.
And he proposed some topics. None of them was relevant for my studies.
Okay.
And I said, because we were in manufacturing technology study, and they had the topic vibration and acoustic. So,
yeah, definitely not directly related, but is there like at least the subject of material or the geometry of the components manufactured that they are measuring for those vibrations? Could you connect it?
No, it's not connected. This is a pure vibration and acoustic.
Okay. Did you use some specific knowledge that you had from the masters or some tools?
From the bachelor, I had the course, dynamic and controls. I was capable to how to code with MATLAB or the fundamentals of the vibration. I had the idea, but so the topic was.
So it was completely experimental. You did some tests. You did measurements. You measured.
Both. I had both. It was a development of acoustic model for the brake system to investigate the brake noises. For example, the brake squeal is a high frequency noise. Thesis includes for both experimental and simulation. I developed a model and I tuned my model according to the test results.
I see.
So, and then I learned a lot. I was lucky because I had a great mentor, supervisor. He did a good introduction for me. He just gave me some critical pills, and I could start, how can I say, as a fit student.
So he gave you all the foundation, all the basis knowledge.
Yes, definitely. The manager and the supervisor were great, and they support a lot. In a short time, I did a lot of things, and I learned a lot. After that, I got the job offer from the company.
Okay.
But it was in Turkey, and my plan was to go back to Germany again.
Okay.
Therefore, I couldn't take the offer.
So that's kind of another example where you start with the master thesis, and that could grant you the chance for a job offer, at least could reach a case of a job offer. I never saw anyone agree as much as Georgi agreed when you said it takes time to find a master thesis. What's your story, Georgi?
No, actually, for me, it's opposite, but because I took the easy path. So easy in finding one. Because I was working as a HIVI, the student assistant at the institute. So for me, I took the easy path because I could continue as taking a master thesis there in the institute, in where my professor and the whole chair was. So, but I know that it is a problematic subject on finding thesis within companies, especially for us internationals. And and I know no, I didn't, to be honest, because I'm a bit lazy guy. So I just wanted to take the easiest path. But not just because that, also I just want to finish as soon as possible and get my first paycheck as soon as possible to get off my parents' backs.
So you had other considerations, but you went to the chair where you're working, and you said, "I want a master thesis," and they just said, "Okay, here you go. Here's one." It was that simple.
Let's say it was that simple, yeah.
Okay.
But keep in mind, I was working there with with even my assistant, my mentor who was on the master thesis. I worked for him specifically for I don't know how many months before, a year
Okay, so
maybe.
he knew what you can do, what you're
Yeah,
capable
yeah.
of, that you're organized, that you know what you're doing to
No,
some
yeah.
extent. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. It wasn't like I'm just for the first time knocking on their door.
Okay.
It's like, okay, give me a thesis. No, no, it's not
So
like that easy.
yeah.
But it's easy in the sense, okay, I work there. Okay, I want to do a thesis here. Okay, now
Mhm.
we can find you maybe something because we know who you are.
Okay.
Right?
So it is important that at least you give a very positive impression to the person you're asking for a project from, or you're asking for a master thesis. You have
Of
to
course.
send the CV, maybe even write a cover letter, maybe, and describe what you know, what you do, and what do you want to do with your master thesis, and why did you choose this chair, this group, this researcher to work with?
Yeah,
Right?
of
You have to
course, of
convince
course.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I was nodding a lot because it's a very, very important advice that I would
Hmm.
give myself, even like when I was a student, to take care of this subject
Yeah.
beforehand, not
Yeah.
wait to finish with courses and then
Yeah.
search for that. This is a fatal, let's say, plan. So
Okay.
for me, it was easy because I was working there. For other people, they started earlier, or
They
yeah,
need to get some contact with the person as early as possible. If they're interested in a specific department, they should try to interact with that department. Maybe
of
at least
course, of
start do a
course.
project there. Maybe when they're taking the courses and the lectures, interact with the person teaching the course. You know, introduce yourself, right? Let them know you. Maybe at least remember your name before you just go there and say, "I want a master thesis."
Yeah, no, no way. If you just come out of the blue, like knocking, okay,
Yeah.
I want a thesis. It's like, who are
Who
you?
are you?
Yeah,
Okay.
we just see that you have a student number, but it's
Yeah.
like, who are you? You need to have some
Okay.
interactions with the people.
I'm gonna ask Osama. So if you go to a person, Osama, and I don't, you
Yeah.
will tell me in a second how did you find your master thesis. But if you go to the person you chose to do your master thesis with in a chair, and you say, "I want a master thesis," and you need those 30 credits. I think it's 30 credits the master
Yeah.
thesis, right? And you need them to finish your master thesis. But what does that guy supervising you get out of this, right? Besides the headache.
Yeah, it's Umar actually mentioned this earlier because the master thesis at the university, they're part of bigger projects. So the
Okay.
other guy you're going to will probably be a PhD student,
Mm-hmm.
and this thesis is going to be a part of his research.
Mm-hmm.
It'll probably be a chapter or something in his dissertation that whatever he's planning to write. So for him, it's very important that you do good work and you do academic quality work.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not also like in the companies. It's not so selective like in companies,
Okay.
because I work on the other side now because I'm doing my own PhD.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sometimes it's hard to find applicants for a topic unless you're working with a very hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically you want to see, is the guy really motivated to work in this area? Does does he know what he's asking for?
That's why I
And as
asked
long as
you,
the guy
because
is
I know that
motivated,
you're
yeah,
now on the other shoe. You're on the
yeah,
other side. That's why I'm asking
yeah.
you. Same
And
as I
then
am. Yeah.
yeah, so the skills are also important because if the whole thesis is going to be on MATLAB and the guy has never programmed before,
Yeah. It will take a
he's
lot
going to
of
spend,
time to catch
yeah,
up,
it'll take
right?
a lot of time to catch up. So that's also important. So I think it's a very good advice to look for Hiwis here as soon as you come to Germany,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how most of the Germans get their experience. Not projects are there, but
Yeah.
Hiwis are very, very good source of experience.
So it's also important when you're looking for a master thesis to choose something you already have some knowledge in and some skills
Yeah,
at, right? Not
yeah,
go for a topic you had no idea about, and then whoever is supervising you is supposed to spend hours and hours explaining to you what the subject is to begin with,
yeah,
right? So and to know more and to have more access to different topics, that's where you need to learn more, right? So you need to spend
yeah,
before you get to the phase of a master thesis. My advice would be try to learn as much as possible of all what you are given. That will broaden your knowledge and at the same time increase your chances of finding the proper projects you want, finding the proper job you want, right? So you shouldn't stick to a very narrow subject, right? At least during your master studies.
yeah. Depends. If you know what you want, you can
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
How did you find your master thesis and how did that go?
Yeah, it took me a very long time. I wanted to find an internship, and I started applying for an internship, but I did not get an internship because I did not have a lot of practical skills.
Okay.
And then it took me about, I think, 4 or 5 months, and I was applying for both internships and theses. And then I finally found a master thesis in a company. So it was a long process for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is always a different story for every person, how he gets to find the thesis, what kind of subject he goes for. It could be in the university, could be in a company, and it could be even not in Germany. For example, in the case of Omer, where he had to go to do it in Turkey, part of the conditions for his scholarship, right? So, of course, whatever we tell as our own personal story does not necessarily apply to everyone, right? So these are individual experiences. But I hope they are helpful for other people to get some idea of how things go. Maybe we can give some of our own experience, some advice, how to do things better for anyone going for a master's study in Germany. For now, I'm not going to talk more. I'm not going to ask much more. I will leave for part 3 of this talk to discuss the final phases of the master thesis. How do you prepare for the report? How does the presentation go? What does that mean the day you do your final presentation? That is your graduation day, technically. And how do you go from there and start looking for jobs? So I will leave all of that subject for part number 3 of our conversation. That will be hopefully next week. And for this evening, I would like to thank you all for this talk. Thank you all for your sharing your story, and hope to see you next week, guys. Okay.
Thanks
Ciao.
for the moderation. Ciao.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right, see you, man.